Parivajacharya Prasata Divine Righteous Samadhi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananda Guri Vaishnava ki, Shri Radha Govardhana ki, Shri Krishna Balaram Maharaj Maharaj ki, Shri Gauranita ki, Jai Gaura Brahmanandi. Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. Reading from Caritamrita, Adilila, chapter 7, text 120. Enajivatatva lanaliki paratatva achama harila shrestha ishwara mahatva. Translation. The Mayavad philosophy is so degraded that it has taken the insignificant living entity to be the Lord, the supreme truth, thus covering the glory and supremacy of the absolute truth with monism. Is this too loud, listening? No. Purport Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur comments in this connection that in all Vedic scriptures, the Jiva Tattva, the truth of the living entities, is mentioned to be one of the energies of the Lord. If one does not accept the living entity to be a minute, infinitesimal spark of the Supreme, but equates the Jiva Tattva with the Supreme Brahman or Supreme Personality of Godhead, it must be understood that his entire philosophy is based on a misunderstanding. Unfortunately, Sripad Sankaracharya purposely claimed the Jiva Tattva or living entities to be equal to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his entire philosophy is based on a misunderstanding, and it misguides people to become atheists whose mission in life is unfulfilled. The mission of human life, as described in Bhagavad Gita, is to surrender unto the Supreme Lord and become his devotee. But the Mayavad philosophy misleads one to defy the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and pose oneself as the Supreme Lord. Thus, it has misguided hundreds and thousands of innocent men. In the Vedanta Sutra, Vyasadeva has described that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is potent and that everything, material or spiritual, is but an emanation of his energy. The Lord, the Supreme Brahman, is the origin or source of everything, Janmadyasya Yata. And all other manifestations are emanation of different energies of the Lord. This is also confirmed in the Vishnu Purana, Ekadesha Sagnir, Yatsya Vishtarani Yata Parasya Brahmana Satis Tatetam Akilam Jagat. That whatever we see in this world is simply an expansion of different energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is exactly like a fire, which spreads illumination for a long distance, although it is situated in one place. This is a very vivid example. Similarly, it is stated that just as everything in the material world exists in the sunshine, which is the energy of the sun, so everything exists on the basis of the spiritual and material energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, although Krishna is situated in his own abode, Goloka Eva Nivasa Tyakilatmana Bhuta, where he enjoys his transcendental pastimes with the cowherd boys and gopis, he is nevertheless present everywhere, even within the atoms of this universe. Adantarastara Paramanu Chayantarastam. This is the verdict of the Vedic literature. Unfortunately, the Mayavad philosophy misguiding people by claiming the living entity to be the Lord, has created havoc throughout the entire world and led almost everyone to godlessness. By thus covering the glories of the Supreme Lord, the Mayavadi philosophers have done the greatest disservice to human society. It is to counteract these most abominable activities of the Mayavad philosophers that Lord Caitanya has introduced the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Harel Nam, Harel Nam, Harel Nam Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gatiranyata. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. People should simply engage in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, for thus they will gradually come to understand that they are not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as they have been taught by the Mayavadi philosophers, but are eternal servants of the Lord. As soon as one engages himself in the transcendental service of the Lord, he becomes free. Mam chaiva vyabhicharena bhakti yoga sevate saguna nisamatyatam brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Therefore, the Hare Krishna movement or Krishna consciousness movement is the only light for the foolish living entities who think either that there is no God or that if God exists, He is formless and they themselves are also God. These misconceptions are very dangerous, and the only way to counteract them is to spread the Hare Krishna movement. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So the Mayavad philosophers, for those of you who don't know, there are people, as Prabhupada mentioned in his purport, who say that the living entity, us, individuals, are equal to the Supreme Lord. And because the Supreme Lord expands himself, when you all become liberated, you all become one again, then we're all one. And this philosophy is rampant in the world. Even though people don't speak philosophy, they think like that we are all God. So you have to be careful with this, because you always have to be careful how you deal with people. And generally, to deal with people properly, you need to know who they are. Now, you can do two things here. You can either adopt the understanding that there is no God, or you can adopt the understanding that there is a God. But either one of them will require verification. So if you want to verify that there is no God, then you apply the same principle as you apply to know someone. If you want to know someone, you've got to look at what they do. You can't really know someone just by speculating, or you got to look at their activities. So if one claims that there is no God in this world, then you have to look at your own activities, because you become the authority. So if you're the authority, then you look at yourself and you analyze what your own activities are. So what are your own activities? Although they may look many and variegated, but actually it's very simple. You can put it down to 4 activities. Everyone takes birth, everyone gets old, everyone gets diseased, and everyone dies. Every single person, every single animal, every single plant. There are 8,400,000 different species of existence in these universes, and they all go through the same thing. So if you look at those activities, then you say, this is very good God. It's forced to take birth, you're forced to die, you're forced to get old, and you're forced to be diseased. What sort of activities are these? It's not really glorious. Nonetheless, everybody will claim, well, I claim there is no God. But you look at your own activities, what do? You do this. So basically it's useless, pointless, because you have no influence, no knowledge. You can have zero influence on those four things. None whatsoever. So therefore, the first thing you get to know is yourself. Okay, if I'm like that, then how can I make such a claim that there is no God? The second thing you should do is look at the way things are managed in this world. If you look at every single thing, from what you wear to everything that's around you, and you can expand yourself like that unlimitedly, you look at every single object and you ask the question, is there an intelligence behind what I'm looking at? So you look at your shirt, look at your camera, look at the book, and ask that question. Does that particular thing come about just by chance? It just appeared. There was no intelligence behind it. Well, the fool will say whatever, but a person with sense will realize actually there is an intelligence behind everything. So there's the second statement. So once you know yourself that you can't establish a solution for those four problems, and you can establish that behind everything there's an intelligence, therefore the conclusion is to shift to say, well, if there is an intelligence to something, there must be a person behind an intelligence. Because everything that is made, inert objects, everything, there is a person behind the intelligence. So then, thank you. Then the point is to apply the same principle of getting to know that person with the same principle. If we admit that we're incapable, and we admit that there is intelligence behind everything, then the next question is to ask, how do I get to know that person? And the same way, we look at what they do. So even if theoretically we say, yeah, there is a God, and we apply that same principle, then we've got to look at what they do to find out who that person is. So what do we have to look at? We look at the whole world. How does it run? It runs perfectly. The sun gets up every day at the same time. The plants grow, create seeds, and within a tiny little seed, there's a huge tree, which then will grow. So we look at that. And there's so many other things. The way the water is lifted, the salt water. There is salt in the ocean to preserve it. That's very intelligent. We take it for granted, but it's very intelligent. Who would have thought to put salt to preserve it in the whole ocean? Then it's lifted by a process of evaporation. Then it's kept into a cloud, and then it's transported somewhere else. And then when time comes, then it comes as sweet water. Then it flows down, brings down the minerals, and expands on the land. All this is highly intelligent. There are birds that are born in northern islands in the northern hemisphere. And the first thing they do when they're born is that they eat a right amount of food, and then they take off to cross the equator and get to the southern hemisphere. Now, how on earth do they know where to go? GPS. Cloudy, raining, storm, sunshine, stars, night. How do they know where to go and they land exactly where they're supposed to land? They don't know, they're just born. And how much to eat? Because they eat too much, you can't fly. They eat too little, no energy, they drop dead. They never drop dead, they fly there. How do they know this? Is there an intelligence behind there that guides them? So this we got to look at to understand You look at someone's activities if you want to know who the person is. So look at the activities in this world. Look at it with an objective eye, not with a what can I get out of it? Oh, what's up for grabs here? And when we look at the world like that, what can I get from it? Then we get fooled. So if we will look at the world in an intelligent way, we will observe that there is intelligence behind it. Now, we have to be really careful, because that person is supremely intelligent, obviously, by logical conclusion. So when you deal with very intelligent people, you've got to be very careful, because they'll fool you. And how do they fool you? Very intelligent people give you whatever you want. There is an old story like this. There's a sage called Sanatana Goswami, and in the days of yore they used to have things called touchstone. Now they have Facebook, the same thing. You touch it and you become polluted. But in those days they had a touchstone, and with that touchstone they could touch things, and whatever that thing would become gold or whatever they were into. And then so there's another type of person that came around, and he heard that this sage had this kind of thing there you could touch around and turn everything into gold. So he got all excited. So then he went to see that sage. He said, "Hey, you've got one of those?" He said, "Yeah, I've got one. You can have it if you want. It's over there." And he looks, he goes, "Where?" "You hear that rubbish pile over there? It's there, inside the rubbish pile." Maybe it wasn't a rubbish pile, it was a pile of gold. Anyway. But the person said, "Oh, hey, great, go, you grab the touchstone." He started touching everything. And then he thought for a while, because intelligent person who looks at the activity of the intelligent guy here, and he thinks, why on earth does he keep that thing in the garbage pile? He doesn't even use it. So then the penny dropped. He went back to Sanatana Goswami and he said, "Hey, why do you keep that thing in the rubbish?" "Because," he says, "it's rubbish anyway. There's something much better than that. You want to know?" Then he gave him what was better. So when you deal with Krishna, you have to be careful, because Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is very intelligent. God is supremely intelligent. So when you approach him or you don't approach him, he will give you whatever you want. And that's a danger. Because you don't know what you want. You don't even know what's good for you. And how can you know what's good for you when you don't even know who you are? Like, sometimes you visit the asylum and you see people, they stand at the window and they're like Hitler, Another one is like Jesus Christ, So they have certain needs, but they think they're that. They think they're Jesus Christ, they think they're Hitler. So if we don't know who we are, how do we even know what we want? People will say, "I know who I am. I'm a man, I'm an Australian, I'm a woman, I'm German, I'm this, I'm that." Well, ask that question again in 10 years or in 20 years. Then it won't be the same. So therefore you're not that. So to know really who you are is the prime element to understand what you need. But that person who is very intelligent, he will provide you with whatever you need under your conception, under your misunderstanding. And that's not cruelty, that's actually love. You want something, you can have it. You want to be happy with lots of money and beautiful this and that? Yeah, you can have it. And you know what? The whole material universe is just that. That God or Krishna just creates this whole thing, so just you can think that this is what I need, and he gives it to you. Now, how kind is that person? And this is the danger, because you're dealing with a very, very intelligent being who's very, very kind. Whatever you want, he'll give it to you. And that's very dangerous. Therefore, the next thing is, well, how do you approach that person? What do you do, Because you just fool yourself. So the best way to approach this person is like you would do with everyone else. You just approach those who know that person really, truly, for what that person is, not for what that person provides. You truly approach them. So therefore you approach those who are close to that person. They are the devotees of Krishna. So there's a psychology behind approaching a person that is like that. And that psychology must be one of, I don't know anything. I'm very tiny, and I don't know anything. I can't do anything. And I'm very dependent on whatever you're going to give me. In that very humble frame of mind, one can discover the real person. But if one comes and says, I know everything, I know philosophy, I know whatever, I know how to live in this world, I know how to be happy, then you're fed that very belief that you have, you fed that. In this particular text here, what I'm talking about here is very salient, because the Mayavadi philosophers, those who believe that God is all one, that we are all God, this is based on that psychology. We know, we declare, and there's a total lack of humility. So therefore, if you want to not be foolish and approach such a person, then there's a process. And that process, as Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita, and as everyone says, when all fails, what do? Surrender? Who? To my grandmother? Now, when all fails, you read the instructions. That's what you do. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says clearly, he says, Krishna is so kind that in the Bhagavad Gita, he doesn't even ask you to surrender to him. He asks you to surrender to him, but he never forces you. He says, yeah, this is how it works. But he's so kind that he says, he implies, even if you want to live in the material world and you think you can be happy here, then follow those rules. Because he has a whole chapter about how to deal with material nature, like the modes of nature. He says if you associate with ignorance, you will become like that. If you eat this, you will do that. If you speak that, you will do that. If you act like this, you will get this result. He lays it out for you. Real kind. And he says, there it is. Now you choose whether you want to use this to get to know me, or whether you want to have a good time in the material world. And after explaining everything to Arjuna, at the end he says, okay, I've explained everything to you. Choose, do what you want to do. But nonetheless, he's not, Krishna is so kind that he doesn't say, well, I'm not giving you that knowledge because, actually, you're not voting for me. A bit like someone I heard, I know, Trump. He's not like that. He says, yeah, I'll give you all the knowledge, everything you know, and then you choose. What do you want to do with it? Nonetheless, in that, the psychology of that knowledge, the psychology of the Bhagavad Gita is that how you act, you will get that. How you think, you will get that. So therefore, the best approach is to ask that person, how should we behave ourselves to get to know you? And this is the human being begins like that. That's when one stops being an animal and fights for his food and transfers to being a human being and says, I need to know who the source of his existence is, and therefore please instruct me how I should be, rather than have my own program, my own thing, and then with that I will get to know it. It's like if you take a candle and you light up, you look for the sun, and you go and look for the sun with a candle. You go, hey, where's the sun? I've got a candle, I've got light. Yeah, really? The sun doesn't require a candle, it's self-illuminating. So similarly, Krishna is there, he's self-illuminating, but we need to know how to approach him. And this is what Krishna teaches in the Bhagavad Gita. So when, in this situation here, when the Mayavadis do not know how, because there's zero humility in them, therefore they can declare make ridiculous statements, such as the living entities are all one. And this is, when you think about it, yeah, Krishna says, you want to think that they're all one? And then there's a whole philosophy. I will even myself become the teacher of this philosophy. And Krishna himself came as Sankaracharya and taught this philosophy just to please whoever may want to believe that we are all one. So this, you got to understand the psychology of intelligent people if you don't want to get cheated by these kind of philosophies. And Krishna is such a person. So therefore one needs to be very careful and approach Krishna with great humility. And this is why we do menial services as devotees. We adopt menial services to adopt that mood and that attitude of approaching Krishna with a mood of I don't know. This is how we use our intelligence. Not that you discard your intelligence, but you use your intelligence to understand the psychology of a supreme being who is supremely intelligent and supremely kind, that will fulfill all your desires. Okay? Thank you very much.
That people are part of God and there's no difference. I do have a question on Krishna consciousness and what it believes in. I've heard an analogy recently about Krishna being the fire and the sparks falling. That's similar to us. And can you go into more detail exactly the manifesting as us as souls? Are we part of Krishna in a way? Or are we not?
Yeah, the analogy is very good because the sparks will remain sparks as long as they contact the fire. If the sparks fly off and they fall somewhere in the wet grass, then they're not sparks anymore. So as long as you're in contact with Krishna, then yes, you are part and parcel of Krishna. If you live or you think, because you never leave Krishna's contact, then you believe that there is the connection with Krishna doesn't exist. So remaining in contact with Krishna, like the spark remains in contact with fire, yes, then like the leaf, it's very beautiful on the tree, but you take it out, or the flower, then it will dwindle, dry, and gone. But as long as it has connection to the roots of the tree, then it will remain in its original beauty. So the living entity has to remain in connection with God or with Krishna to retain his original beauty.
A common question we hear is, if God, as you explained, is giving us what we desire, then why
so much suffering?
By sharks or gas, by mediums in gas chambers, things like that.
Because you got to play by the rules. In everything that you get, you got to play by the rules. And if you don't know the rules, or if you do know the rules have consequences. So the worst thing you can do is live in this material world without reading the Bhagavad Gita. If you read the Bhagavad Gita, then you know the rules, so you know how to engage. No one goes to war without knowing the rules of warfare. Even when you talk to people, you have to know, when you deal with issues, you have to know what the rules are. You can't just go to a meeting and vomit. There are rules. Those rules have consequences. The first thing one should know when you deal with anything, what to speak of material nature, what to speak of the material world. When you deal with anyone and everything, you have to know who that person is. You have to know who you're dealing with. Like when you go on the UFC or boxing, I know you don't go there, but anyway. They weigh themselves first. Why is the reason they weigh? Because they have to be equal. They know what the opponent is. You never see a lightweight dealing with a heavyweight. So similarly, when you deal with anything or anyone, any object, you must know what that object is, you must know what that person is, you must know what the material world is. So that's what Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita. If you don't know that, then there are consequences, and then you go, why am I suffering? Well, for one, you don't know the rules, and consequently, you don't apply them. Then, that's foolish. It's simply foolishness. If you know the rules, then you play by the rules. You want to be in this material world and be peaceful, then Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, this is how you do it. And so the question is, why is it people end up in distress? It's because either they don't want to follow the rules, or most of the time, they don't even know the rules. And a lot of them, they don't even know that there are rules. It's just a free-for-all. So that's foolishness. But as a human being, one should not remain foolish and should just ask, okay, what's the deal here? You know, how do we deal with that? That's intelligence. Anything below that, even the animals, they have some kind of, even the tree has intelligence. You know, sometimes the tree grows like this under a roof, then he goes, Even he has intelligence. There's a rule. You get there, bang. But human beings now, they're always, it's not working. Keep doing more of it. It's not working, just push more money to it. It's not working, just push more. That's foolishness. So you have to know what the rules of engagements are, and you have to apply them. And you have to hear those rules from the proper person. So Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita exactly what the rules are. If you don't read Bhagavad Gita, you're what's the saying? You're cruising for a bruising.
Another question. Prabhupada mentions many times the word dangerous in the third book. And his philosophy in Mayavada is
dangerous.
Extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, aren't we free to believe what we want, and then why is it so dangerous?
Well, you are free, yes, and then you're free of the consequences as well. And the consequences is that you'll be like the leaf that plucks out of the tree, and you have some bizarre, strange philosophy which does not fulfill the self. Because it's not engineered, it's not made that way. Krishna did not make it that way. Krishna gives it to you, that Mayavad philosophy, because you want that. But it's not your intrinsic, it's not your constitutional position. Therefore you will never feel happy. It's like saying, well, I'm a fish and I should be free to just roam around 5th or 10th Avenue in New York. What's the problem? As long as I wear a face mask. But a fish can't do that, because that's not his constitutional position. A fish belongs to the water. So a fish can only be happy in the water. Similarly, you can only be happy if you have a relationship with the primal being that is designed by him. Because he is the primal being, he's the one that designed us. So he knows best what's for us. So if we design some new philosophy, or if we make up some philosophy, he'll never be happy. Just like a fish, he decides, I'm going to go for a walk up the Himalayas for a change, you know. Well, okay. Maybe it won't work. So we gotta enter our constitutional position. Our constitutional position is designed by Krishna. Our constitutional position is to be in connection with Krishna. And then, as Prabhupada mentions the purport here, once you do that, you become free. And that's what we are looking for. But we have our own program to become free. That's the problem. We make our own program, and instead of becoming free, we become more and more entangled, and we suffer more and more. So what is the problem with Mayavad philosophy? Is that it will entangle us more and more, and it would make us more inimical towards God rather than connect with Him. And that's the problem. It gets us away from our constitutional position rather than come closer to our constitutional position. And that's a real danger. It's like you going to the fish and preach, hey, you should be better on the land rather than in the water. But that's how you become free. Because the ocean of the spiritual world is unlimited, unlike, of course, the analogy of the ocean of the fish. You may think, well, it's limited, you know. But no, the very meaning of a spiritual world means unlimited. So therefore, once you enter this ocean of unlimited, you become free, as Prabhupada mentioned. Then you become real happy. And that's the real problem, because this philosophy is preaching how don't do that. It's very, very dangerous. It works against the welfare of every single person, living entity, whatever. Okay.
You mentioned earlier that the only way to...
I don't think it's on. I think you need to click it on.
You mentioned earlier that the only way back to God was to chant Hare Krishna. I was under the impression that we are each to find our own journey to God, and if the world was to have one religion, it would be detrimental to the whole spiritual path.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Well, you can do let's say you never met your father, so you can do two things. You can do your own way, and you can visit the whole planet and ask every single man, are you my father? It'll take a while, but you might hit the jackpot, but it'll take a long time. Or you can do another thing. You can go and ask your mom, Mom, who's dad? And mom will tell you it's this one. So this is a similar principle where life, you can try and find out who the goal of existence is, or you can ask those who know. So you can choose. But as from the example I've given, one is a lot quicker than the other. So therefore, generally we approach authorities who understand the subject matter. And once you approach the authority, then there's a process by which you can know. Because this is a process of self-realization. It's not that I realize you. It's a process of self-realization. That means you, by approaching the authority, they give you a process by which you yourself can realize the goal of life. Not someone else is going to do it. Do you understand the difference? That you're not given the cake ready to eat. They'll give you the recipe and say, you do it. But you have to approach the authority to know how to do it. You can't just speculate, otherwise you'll be going around the world, for millions of lifetimes, looking for something that you don't even know what you're looking for. You don't even know how to approach that person. So therefore, approaching authority means you do it to get access to the process by which this person, Supreme Person, can be known. There is a process. And it's a subtle difference, but it's there. Because what you said, but then when you do that, yes, then it's your own way. The way you deal with it, the way you commit offenses, the way you apply the process. This is all your own intelligence, and you really have to work at it, because it's not easy. It's not given in just add water to it and mix and that's it. It's actually lifetimes of it. But this is where you apply your intelligence once you know that the process works. Like if you go to the gym and you do this movement, it's not going to work your biceps, but no one told you, so you keep doing that. And you say, what's wrong with my biceps? They're not growing. You got to do this, but no one told you. So someone tells you, this is how you do biceps. You go like that. But then you have to go to the gym every day and do this and drink water and eat at the right time and this and that. So that's the difference between, in the sense it is your own path, yes. But you have to be sure first that you're on the right road. Because you can learn how to drive, you can buy a car, you can get registered, and then you head north to go to Melbourne. Oops, but you're doing all the right thing. You're looking for it yourself, but you're going the wrong way. And then someone may say, real smart, yeah, but if you go all the way to Cairns, and go to Darwin, and go to Indonesia, and then go to the North Pole, and then come through South Africa and South America, then you'll end up in Melbourne. Yeah? Good luck. With your little Hyundai two-door. So the process is to first approach the sages to find out what the process is. Then apply the process. Then in that, there's so many challenges within that process. And that's when your path becomes yours. That's called self-realization. You realize yourself. If no one can do it for you.
In connection to what you said at the beginning, that God fulfills all the desires of the soul, would it be correct to say that it's always connected to the law of karma, and that's why we suffer as well? Because every desire implies a reaction as well.
It is connected to the law of karma, but it's not always connected to the law of karma.
Material desires are, right?
Material desires, yes.
So that's why we suffer.
But that's run by God himself, by Krishna. That's managed by him. But when you come out of the law of karma, then it's also managed by him. But it's not the law of karma.
So it's not as simple as desiring something and getting.
Yeah, of course. As I said before, you have to follow the rules.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. You don't just buy a car. You have to register it. You have to learn. You have to get a license. You have to learn how to drive it. You have to be attentive to other drivers. You have to put fuel in it, not diesel. He's not here. You know, you have to know all these things as well. So it's not just buy the car. So you have to be able to understand the law, how it works, and then yes, it's not just desire. I want to go to Moolumba, you know. Oh yeah. I bought a car and I go to Moolumba. You got no license, you got no registration, you got no petrol, you don't know how to drive, you disrespect other drivers. Really? You might end up at Moolumba, but at the police station. That's the law of karma.
So it means that if we suffer, it's just because due to our own actions and reactions, due to ourselves, right?
Yes, a devotee does not suffer. A devotee has no material unhappiness. A devotee is always happy. Yes. One who acts like a devotee by caring for everything previously mentioned, it does not suffer.
Hare Krishna. I just wanted to answer this Prabhu's question sitting on the chair here. Talking about why there's different religions or that I know one religion causes havoc in the world. I should also ask Prabhu's question in Canto HG Ajita. Asked why there's so many religions, why there's so many isms. And the answer to that was that Krishna imparted his transcendental knowledge into the heart of Brahma, and then he imparted that to the disciples in succession, and under the Lord's material nature, the knowledge was slowly deteriorated, the understanding became changed like that, and so all these isms came about, different understandings, different religions under the different modes of material nature. But the original knowledge is still there in the Vedic literature. And the question of that is Srimad Bhagavatam Gita. Yeah.
Okay. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai.